Thank you so much for having me here this morning. I am here to bring that perspective that we spoke about a little bit from outside your immediate industry, coming from the world of Publicis and my team in Starcom. I'm here to share, I suppose, the learnings that we have as we have been working towards building an agentic future and what that means for our clients in terms of bringing them competitive advantage in the world of media, advertising, and that part of the communications world. And I suppose you might be wondering, who is this woman and what is she doing here? Which is a fair question, to be fair, as I haven't met most of you in the room before today. So let me just introduce myself beyond the brief introduction before. My name is Emer Lawn. I'm the Managing Director of Starcom Ireland, which is one of Ireland's largest media agencies here in Ireland, but we're one part of Core or Publicis in the Irish market. And I suppose we are the largest advertising and communications group. We have about 41% market share in this local market, but Publicis is now globally also the #1 in our industry, with over 100 countries in which we operate and I think now over 141,000 different employees. So I am one of those voices here today, and I suppose bringing you the perspective of some of what Publicis is doing globally and what that means on the ground for our clients in action and the work that we do with our clients here in Ireland. In terms of some of those clients, these are clients that I speak to on a very regular basis, some of whom from completely different worlds and industries, but of course bring kind of a diverse set of insight in terms of how we need to speak and communicate to customers. But in the telecom space, we proudly are the partners for Sky here in Ireland and across all of the markets for Publicis. And I suppose experience in the telecom space for me personally, beyond Sky, would have worked with O2 and 3 at an earlier stage in my career as well. So I have a little bit of an insight into your world, but I didn't want to make any assumptions if I'm going to talk about what it is that we do and how it's changing from particularly an AI perspective. I didn't want to make assumptions about whether or not you know what we actually do in the media agency. So I'm going to ask for a bit of help by playing this recent work.
Now, that's your new Sky broadband all set. Enjoy.
Great party!
Overrated.
Smile.
Why?
3, 2, 1.
Time to go.
Sky know we all use broadband in different ways. So however you use yours, enjoy it with Sky's fastest ever speeds. Sky do broadband, you do you.
So if you're in the Irish market, hopefully that's not the first time you have seen that. We've just launched that for Sky Broadband. I'm not here to sell you Sky's broadband offering. But if you're a football fan, you might be familiar with Roy Keane. And he has been somebody that we've partnered with to launch Sky Mobile back at the end of 2024 in this market and have been working with him since. But we use that to tell you a little bit more about what we do, because in its simplest terms, we make the ads like the one that you just saw there. We make them for the big screens and the small screens, but we also are the team that are responsible for making sure that the right people see the ads. And that's where I suppose my team in particular focus on delivering for our clients. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how what we do is changing as a result of AI in particular, but also how we've invested in data. And in order to do that, I want to walk through kind of the answers to a couple of key questions. And I'm conscious that we come from slightly different perspectives, but from chatting to everyone earlier, there's certainly one thing we share, which is a love of jargon. So hopefully I won't use too much of that today from our world. And the other thing is that we're all facing this challenge, right, of trying to communicate meaningfully in a world where there's a lot of noise. And Nick just spoke to the volume of messaging that's growing, and you'll see that as we go through today as well. So I'm going to talk about how the media and communications landscape has been changing, and therefore how Publicis have been investing to stay ahead of that future. And there's two kind of key innovations, real game changers for us in the advertising space that I want to speak to today. One is around targeting and identity, and how AI and data is influencing that. again, to help what we do in terms of getting people to see the right ads and make sure that we're doing the best job possible there. But then when it comes to making the ads, there's another game changer in terms of how we're empowering our teams creatively. And then lastly, it wouldn't be right not to acknowledge what all of this means for the people who work in our industry and in our own teams, how they're experiencing this change as well. So I'm going to jump right into the first question then, in terms of how the media and communication landscape has changed. If we think about it, not too long ago, it used to be quite simple. Perhaps my colleagues that used to buy TV back in the day didn't feel like it was too simple. But in reality, if we bought a simple TV ad, placed it in the right environments, we would have reached the masses or a good chunk of our target audience. But we fast forward to today, and we don't even speak about just TV anymore. We speak about video at large, because media fragmentation has really accelerated the consumption of video messaging. Today, the Irish average consumer receives 276 different video messages each and every day. So that fragmentation isn't just a challenge from a video perspective. We're seeing it across all media channels. And I could show you this chart from a global perspective. This is the Irish point of view, but it is across each and every channel. And what we're seeing here is the total media invested across TV, radio, out-of-home print, cinema, and of course digital, which is what you're seeing in the light blue line there. And you can just see the dramatic change. That is social advertising, search advertising, display, and mobile messaging, all within that blue number there that you see growing. And I suppose we can see, having a good sense of the market, that this number is also continuing to increase. We predict that by the end of 2026, we will have seen a 5.6% growth in the Irish advertising landscape, a number that we see despite global pressures across markets as well. And it means that we will have about 1.75 billion spent in this space. And I guess the combination of all of those things that I've spoken about up to this point is that we are bombarded by communications. The average person will see 3,500 ads every single week. If we're just one of those messages, or even if we have a pretty robust media strategy and plan, maybe we're 20 of them. But why is our message going to cut through and make an impact? Because we also have a compounding challenge in this, that all of those communications are not created equally. And one of the main metrics that has been vital for us to pay attention to is how much attention our messaging is actually delivering. And there's a lot of science behind this that we have from the likes of amplified intelligence. And we can now see that one TV ad delivers a decent amount of attention, but it would take 1.5 YouTube ads, or 8 Facebook ads, or 40 different internet messaging ads to deliver the equivalent level of attention. And that's not to say that one media channel is way, way better than the others. We have to use all of these channels now in order to reach customers, but we do need to prioritize attention in the mix. And on top of all of this, AI is disrupting how brands will actually find us. In Ireland, we now know that we did a very in-depth study of the Irish market in AI. At the end of last year, 33% of under 40s are using Gen AI every single day. I'm sure you're going to hear lots and lots of AI stats and facts today. But the interesting aspect of this that I wanted to share is that if we think about how consumers are finding us, maybe they went to your website directly, they clicked on a search ad, or they went through organic search, where now they're asking their Gen AI platform how to find your product or service, or maybe they have a question that your business solves for them. And even though it's off a small base, we can see the behavior shifting already. We have seen a 2,652% increase, it's hard to say, in the amount of traffic from LLMs or Gen AI platforms year on year as of quarter one. So if we're not present in those environments, we're perhaps missing from the conversation altogether. So how has the media and advertising landscape been changing? Well, we're being bombarded by communications, and therefore just hitting them with a message or reaching them is not enough alone. We need to be prioritizing attention, the identity, knowing who we're speaking to, and then making sure that they're getting the right content. And this is where value has really started to shift it in our space to those who can make our clients' investment go further because it's delivering on these aspects. So how have Publicis been preparing us for this changing future? Because it's not something that we've been doing, in the last couple of months as AI has started to explode in the consumer world. This is something we've been investing in for over a decade now. And even just 2 weeks ago, our global CEO announced another massive acquisition of LiveRamp in the space, now growing our total global investment in data and tech to $14.2 billion. And what I suppose he's talked about when he shared that news was that we're in this AI paradox at the moment. There's massive investment, but minimal returns. With the estimate of global AI infrastructure spend to meet $1 trillion, I can't even comprehend the amount of zeros in that regard. But the same cohort is only seeing 5% of AI projects delivering meaningful value. So where's the gap there? And I suppose in Publicis, what we've seen is that it's not necessarily just about the infrastructure for AI, or even that the models that we're using, that they're broken or wrong, but rather it's about the data foundations. What data are we actually feeding into the AI models that we're using? And this is why we've been investing more than any other marketing services firm in the world over the last decade. And I certainly can't speak to the stories of how each one of these acquisitions went down, but we can see what it means for us on the ground. And competitively, we know that everyone will be using AI, but not everyone will be feeding AI with the right data and running it with the right people. And we feel that that's a significant difference for us as we move forward, especially when we look at, back to what I said at the start, what does this mean for the work we do, for the ads we make and the ads we place? And there's two particular innovations that I'm going to speak to here in this regard. Connected identity, which is related to the media side of what we do in terms of getting the right people to see our messaging, and Marcel, which is about allowing us to make even better ads. So diving into both of those for just a couple minutes, connected identity is a real game changer for us. If we think about how we traditionally target consumers with our messaging, we have a lot of research and data that informs that. We have a lot of experience to know what media channels to run our messaging in. And that's successful to a large degree, but there are flaws with it, right? Because even online, when we're speaking to somebody, we're targeting devices, not necessarily real individuals. And when it comes to running messaging to a generic target audience, there's always a little bit of wastage, right? And this is where connected identity comes to the fore. We believe that we can now limit the wastage of our campaigns, not that we only target in micro segments, but that where we're running our activity, we have as sharp a view on the audience as possible. So what is it? Well, it's essentially our proprietary identity platform where we're pulling in a multitude of data sources. In fact, over 2,600 of them, I think, is the number, from online and offline transaction information, from connected TV data, mobile IDs, etc. And the good news for us is that now we have built up a really robust picture of the audience in this market, with 3.9 million real IDs active for us. And that's only good news, not so that we can follow people around the internet or follow them with more advertising. It means that for our clients, they're only speaking to the people that they want to speak to when it matters, and for the consumer, that we're only seeing things that are relevant, right? So to give you an example of how that audience comes to life, as I say, real IDs are actually consumers like Sam. And this is a cohort of the population that I'm calling Sam. We would never need to know anyone's name or anything personally identifiable. This is all very GDPR compliant. But Sam represents a small cohort of the population that I chose because I'm one of this group. I'm using Gen AI to feed my food inspiration for recipes. And indeed, if you had to cook Christmas dinner for the first time, Gen AI was my absolute savior. And so this is a growing cohort. And if I'm a food brand or if I'm somebody in that space, this is a very relevant audience for me. In the past, I would have targeted or found SAM through kind of traditional target audience segments like 25 to 44-year-old females, for example. Maybe I would have known that what their household makeup looked like, or because I was searching on food websites that I'm interested in food. That's great, and that might have allowed us to run advertising that spoke to this audience on the likes of local brands like RTE or even Meta, Spotify, etc. But now we're not guessing as to whether or not we're reaching that audience, because we have a really clear picture. We can see that there are 311 SAMs in the platform, and we can pull this and create these audiences for whoever the segment is that we're looking to speak to. And you can see how that audience is built. So there's two ways that we can then activate against this, and it's called identity informed and identity activated. And on the informed side, this is where we take this information and we start to get more insights. We can go a step deeper. So we spoke about kind of the segmentation people in organizations, and those are really, really valuable insights that we get from our segments. We can now replicate those in connected identity, make better plans, maybe even the creative improves as a result of having that insight. But now we also can see that this audience is watching Channel 4 food content. They're meal prepping, and they're very highly likely, 3 times as likely, to be a parent of a toddler, which is also an insight into my world. But I suppose where this really becomes magic for us is on the identity activated side. Where connected identity becomes a game changer for us is that we can now take that audience and plug it directly into the media buying platforms that we run and buy our campaigns on. So now we can buy SAMs or any audience that we choose across all of the addressable media that you see here. And those highlighted in pink are the ones that we're activating live campaigns for on a regular basis now in the Irish market, meaning that rather than just target any person who's watching video on demand on Virgin, we now can know that it's a SAM, that's somebody that's really relevant if I'm that brand looking to speak to that audience. So we have a greater, clearer picture of the SAM audience now because of connected identity. And I suppose where this really comes to life is in terms of the engagement that it's delivering for our clients. Where we've activated this and run our campaigns through connected identity, we're seeing an average of 15% uplift in engagement. That could be reaction to the advertising, interaction with it, but also sales across a wide number of different clients across sectors. So that's the media side of things. But how are we empowering our teams creatively using AI? This is where we're really excited about Marcel. And I guess it becomes really important because in a world where AI is going to make content cheaper, potentially, we're going to see a lot more of it as well. And you can be guaranteed that not all of that is going to be as high quality as we want it to be. So perhaps the only thing worth paying for is those people who know what content to make, where to make it, and why they're actually making it in the first place. Or put it another way, in a world full of artificial intelligence, we need to make authentic intelligence. And for us, this is about combining human creativity and human insight with the intelligent content, which is content that is better informed by data and insight. And Marcel, that I've mentioned up to this point, is what activates this, where we now have AI agents across every single part of the creative workflow through to media activation process that's learning at scale. And it allows our best creative minds to spend more time doing the thinking and building relationships with clients rather than stuck in some of that previous heavy lift. And this is where you see those agents come to life. I'm only going to kind of touch on this briefly because there's just so much we could cover on the topic, but this is where you see your audience that we've identified. And we now have agents at every stage, an AI content brief, a creative playground agent who's giving you feedback on ideas, a versioning agent who's building that for you, but then a brand health agent who's making sure that it's up to brand guidelines, and then getting feedback from your audience before you even put it live, and then plugging this into the media platforms with a media plan quicker than we could have done before. And then all of us, media and creative, are empowered because we can see the performance and whether it's working or not on an ongoing basis. And there's so much more where this came from in terms of the AI agents. So when you're looking at this, I certainly felt there's a lot going on here, right? So how are we actually going to make this real for our teams and for our clients? Well, it works just like every other Gen AI platform. You just ask it questions, and it guides you step by step. So the power here is in the people asking it the questions, right? But this is where we are taking it even further, because AI is allowing us to do things we didn't necessarily think possible. A lot of people are pointing AI at where there's maybe gaps in the industry or problems in the industry. Well, some of the smart minds in Publicis asked, how can we use AI to make us better at what we do best? And this is where I'm going to use some videos so you can get a break from me chatting away to hear about Marcel Ideate, which is the next level of where we're taking this in our business.
What if you could throw today's wildest minds into a digital cage match with the greats of history? TikTok philosophers, Reddit prophets, cancel-proof provocateurs, all battling it out in your brand's name. Forget stuffy boardrooms and focus groups telling you what you already know. What if your next breakthrough came from a chaotic swarm of AI agents trained on everything from doom-scrolling patterns to psychedelic research to how Gen Alpha communicates when adults aren't looking? They say madness is close to genius. We say, welcome to Marcel Ideate.
So that little flavor of Marcel Ideate, I suppose now we have teams powered by AI tools in media and creative, but now we've got AI agents who are coming up with the thinking and the creative right with us. They're part of our team, new team members. So how is this coming to life in action? I'm just another minute more to give you a flavor of how this is coming to life for some of our brands globally in Publicis.
This is Marcel Ideate at work. A swarm of agents digging, debating, decoding culture, turning chaos into clarity and data into direction.
It started with Coca-Cola and a heat wave sweeping America. We triangulated connected identity data with live weather APIs and cultural signals to see how each city hacked the heat.
The result? A real-time, locally relevant engine that refreshed content at the speed of culture.
For Neutrogena, we rode the wave of comeback culture, spotting new comebacks before anyone saw them come. We named them, framed them, and the Publicis team turned them into creative that hit the cultural moment before the moment hit.
What do you do when the adrenaline rush and extreme sports that defined you has lost its buzz?
You put the swarm to work, who flipped the script on the category, positioning high energy not as over-caffeinated, overactive bros, but as the fuel that drives focus for the next-gen athlete, creator, and culture maker, those that are locked in.
In 3 short months, we have partnered with a number of the Publicis Group teams. And soon, every brand in the Publicis Group will move at the speed of culture. Sharper insights, bolder strategy, creative that wins. Because Marcel doesn't just predict what's next, it helps you create it.
So it's kind of wild to think what's possible with something like Marcel Ideate now as part of our solutions, and really, as we say, acting as another team member. We can even play around with it. We're only prototyping some of the application for our clients in Ireland, but amazing what it's able to point out in terms of cultural trends that are happening in pockets of counties in Ireland even. And so I suppose when you see it, it's kind of humbling at the same time as well in terms of what it's able to do. So it's not about a future that's always human better than the machines or machines always better than humans. We see it as that it's humans with the machines that's going to make the difference for us as we move forward. Of course, only when those machines are powered with the right data and information. So the last, I suppose, thing that I wanted to cover, I guess, speaks to that reality, right? What does all of this mean for our people and our culture as an organization? because that's also a really big challenge that we have to grapple with in terms of embracing all of this. It would be remiss of me not to acknowledge that, when we're showing some of the possibilities of these tools, that teams are wondering, what does this mean for me and my role and my part of the company? But we see it as a tool of empowerment for the teams. We were speaking about some of this earlier before this morning's session. Because when we think about the realities of this, you can give a bad artist a brush and they will paint you 10,000 more photos using AI, but will any of them actually matter? Whereas if we give a talented artist the tools to scale their talent, that's a really different story. And that's why we're excited about it and have a very clear and will continue to support our philosophy around this, that we are people first, AI forward. We are embracing it as a smart tool to empower our smart people, and the teams are excited about what possibilities that give us, because now we can use AI to solve problems that were previously went unsolved. And even with clients we've worked with for decades, we're now able to say, what if we leveled up and we have a bigger ambition together, because we can see the possibilities of it working together. And in order for this to become real, though, in our organization, this hasn't happened overnight. No cultural shift does. And I'm looking at my colleague Michael, who's here this morning, who's led a consistent approach to this in our organization, setting up our AI Council many years ago, the policies that need to be in place to do this safely and with strong governance. But then we have structured and consistent learning programs in place at all levels of the organization. But then it's co-created. We have show and tells happening every 2 weeks. And this isn't just about kind of ticking the goal or KPI box that Nick mentioned earlier. This is about actually celebrating team members, no matter how junior or senior they are, who are actually using it for their real world application rather than just doing it for the sake of it. So we will consistently support our people first, AI forward approach. And as I said at the start, in terms of what we do, we make the ads and we make sure that the right people see the ads. That isn't changing. But, and of course I'm simplifying what we do, but what is changing is the intelligence behind both. And maybe the ambition that we feel we can have more of an impact with our messaging as a result of embracing all of this technology. So hopefully sharing a little bit from our world has provided a bit of inspiration. I've been repeating a couple of key things throughout the session. The first is that in a world where we're bombarded by communications, intelligence and relevance really, really matters, more so than just being able to reach your audience at scale. Everyone is using AI, but not everyone will be feeding it with the right data and information and running it with the right people. And lastly, we don't believe that the future belongs to those who replace everyone with AI or even creates more content from AI. It's about actually not AI at all. It's about combining better data, these connected intelligence solutions, and vitally human creativity, which we really believe in, and it will continue to be as powerful as ever as we move forward. So with that human aspect in mind, we hope that you will stay in touch with us as an organization. Follow us on LinkedIn, perhaps. Subscribe to us for our reports that we produce very regularly, webinars, and really in-depth insight into the Irish market here, as well as, of course, with our colleagues in Publicis globally. And with that, the only thing left for me to say is thank you very much. Delighted to have the chance to learn from you all here this morning and hopefully throughout the rest of the day. And as I say, hopefully we're going to be living in a world that's maybe a little bit more intelligent, but hopefully still deeply human. Thank you very much.